Welcome to Bon Jovi Discussions. Today I have my buddy. Let me try this again. Asparuh from
Yes,
Bulgaria. Right? Did I get it right?
yes, absolutely correct, Jerry. You
I'll
nailed
get
it
there
from
one
the
day.
first
How you
time.
doing, buddy?
I'm doing okay. Very good. Very nice
Yeah,
to finally being able to catch with you and be on your
absolutely.
podcast. Thank you for let's say, inviting me. I really appreciate speaking with you.
It's great to have you here, man. So before we get into our fun topic today, I always like to ask my new guest, how did you become a Bon Jovi fan?
Well, I have thought in the last several days about it, how to just explain it, but I don't have a specific thing. It happened, let's say, naturally back in the very early 90s. As you mentioned, I'm from Sofia, the capital of Bulgaria, Eastern Europe. So back in the very early 90s, I remember very vividly. I was very, like, before school. I got onto the TV and I saw the clip for
Oh,
Blaze of Glory. So I just liked the song, but I didn't know who was who. And several years later, actually, my first money I had, my parents which gave me, I bought some cassettes from, the cassettes with music. And actually, the first cassette I bought was Bon Jovi, Keep the Faith. I just bought it because I like the cover with the hands. So I
yeah.
didn't have any clue. So I bought it, and I became a fan instantly. So yeah, from then on, this is like 32, 33 years ago. I'm a huge Bon Jovi fan, and I support the band as hard as I could. So yeah, from that time on,
Now,
I've been following the band.
what's your favorite album and song?
So I'm between New Jersey and These Days. But
Okay.
taking ab- but speaking about song, it's definitely Wild is the Wind. This has been my favorite song for
Yeah.
quite some time now, and I saw that in your previous podcast you spoke about it, which made me very happy. And actually, I'm very happy that a lot of people appreciate this song
No,
more
absolutely.
than, because this song should be definitely appreciated more. And it's very
Mhm.
strange to me that they didn't put it out as a single
Yeah,
back in the day, because
I agree.
actually they've put more than half of the album as a single. But yeah, it's a little bit of a unsung gem,
Yeah,
unfamiliar
I I
territory.
I agree with you. Wild as the Wind is such a beautiful, dynamically structured song. The way that it's built and the way that it's a roller coaster of it takes you up and down. And like you, I wish it was a single. But here's my problem with singles. Singles are are put together for radio. So if you ever hear like the Dry County demo, or not demo, the Dry County radio edit or the Always edit or Lay Your Hands on Me edit, they're brutal. They take out some of the best parts of the song and it doesn't have the same structure and feel that it's meant to be. And so if they did Wild as the Wind for a radio single, I couldn't imagine what kind of edit they would do because like I think it's like a 5 minute song, 6 minutes.
Yeah, and they have, I think, around the fourth minute mark for radio. So, and as you mentioned about the structure, we'll not get very deep into it, but just to mention that it has been written by, not only John and Richie, but with Desmond Child and Diane Warren, which
Yep.
I think this is, I think, the peak Bon Jovi songwriting. And you know, my I have a lot of memories and feelings towards this song. So yeah, and second is the These Days song from These Days album. I like this song so much. So
Which takes us into our topic. So we are going to talk about These Days, the song. But before we get into the song, you can't talk about the song without also bringing up the album. Obviously, These Days is I always say that 90s Bon Jovi was the peak of the band, musically, vocally, lyrically. And I always say these days is the peak of that peak. It is truly the band's greatest work. You know, everything about it is so incredible. And it's crazy to me because you listen to the These Days album and it feels so dark and depressing and sad. But as you listen to it more and more, I think, and John has also said this, that he was at the most optimistic time in his life when he was writing this. So it wasn't meant to be that.
with
And I
his
think, I
kids being born, yeah, absolutely.
yeah, I think it's an album that misery loves company, but let's find hope. Let's find that light together. And you're not alone in this. And I think it's just trying to find the answers together. Like something to believe in. So it's truly just a phenomenal album. So what's your take on the album?
My take is very similar to yours. Actually, I too believe that 90s Bon Jovi, especially Keep the Faith, and these days are the peak in terms of songwriting. I think they had more the freedom to do what actually they want to do, not what the label wanted to do. Because with Slippery in New Jersey, they were still, let's say, under the, although it was have always been John's band, they were under the, let's say, have to prove something. Whereas after they have changed the management, with Doc McGee out of the band, it was
Yeah.
John's vision. So I think that 90s Bon Jovi, it's like the peak in terms of mature music, mature songwriting. Not so much like a stadium anthems, more like more private songs, more songs that delve deep into the
Yeah.
human relations, human feelings, and I believe these days it's the peak of it. Although I didn't find it that way when it came out. Actually, maybe it's now the time to mention that I was already a Bon Jovi fan when it came out, so it was a little bit strange because we were getting used. We were kids back then, and we were used with the more stadium, like "Lay Your
Yeah.
Hands on Me," "Bad Name" type of songs, and these were like not the flashy,
Yeah.
how to say, hits. But up to this day, I like, when I became more older and more mature, I started to understand and to appreciate the album even more.
That's the same take that I have when I was a kid. So I became a fan when I was 8 years old, and that was in 2000.
Yeah.
And so I think the order that I bought the albums were Crush, uh, Blaze of Glory, Crossroad, 7800, Slippery, Jersey, Debut, Keep the Faith, and and I think These Days was like the last album that I got. And of course, as an 8-year-old kid, you like the really fun songs that you could sing along to and blah blah blah. So when you listen to These Days, the only really fun song that a kid would probably like, at least for me, it was Something for the Pain, because it was just that fun lyric and sing along song.
And with
The rest of the
the
rest of the
video was
album,
like very fun. Yeah.
yeah, the rest of the album I couldn't get into because I couldn't relate to any of those songs. I was just a little boy. And but as I got older and started to experience loss and whatever difficulties that people go through in life, I could relate to that album more. And I think you really have to mature as a person to really get into this album.
Definitely, definitely. And back in the day, without any social media, without any internet, just like him, uh, just how to say, appreciating the album just by what you see on the, because MTV, we had MTV and it was huge here. So actually, you receive the music through the video. So actually, the
I
first single,
remember.
as you know, was "This Ain't a Love Song," was the first pilot single of the album before the album came. So actually, the video with this Thailand setting and everything, and we liked it because this was the only thing we had. So we were very pumped for the album. And when it came out, actually, apart from Something for the Pain, we liked also them. Although I remember I liked My Guitar Lies Bleeding in My Arms as well. Although it's not the, how to say, the very flashy and sing along type of song. But as you mentioned, these days has always been a favorite album of me. Although I didn't understood it for many years, it was always been very close to the heart because of the time it came out and everything. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is too, is you look at these songs and those songs are still relevant 30 years later.
Yes.
Like especially like right now with I don't know if you're aware of what's going on in our country right now. Not to get into politics, but
Yes, of course.
our country is going it's crazy with the stuff that's going on right now. So like you listen to the songs like Hey God and you're questioning your faith, because you're seeing all these bad things happen in this world. And like I said, I don't want to get into religion or
Yes, of
politics
course.
here, but these songs really are a test of time, standing the test of time, and are still relevant today, just like the song that we're about to talk about. And that's when you know you have a good song, when it stands the test of time.
Yes, and as you mentioned, we are celebrating this year's the 30 years anniversary of
Yeah.
this masterpiece.
Yes.
Let's just remind our audience what we are talking about. So yeah, I think John was like, this is the how to say, the place where he thrives the most, like writing about this more social topics, the topics that actually are relatable to most of the people, the working class topics. So definitely,
Yeah.
I think in these days he was at his peak in terms of everything, songwriting, not
Yep.
only the music but the lyrics.
Absolutely. And it's a shame here in America the album didn't do, and fuck the charts. I can't stand the charts. I can't stand the critics, blah blah blah. But it's a shame that because this is truly the band's greatest work, and the fans, especially the diehard fans, absolutely appreciate this album. And it's such a shame that it did not get recognized and credited for what it should have gotten in the 90s. And thankfully, overseas it was a huge hit.
Yes.
And I always, the sad part is here in America, especially during that time, you were transitioning from, what was popular with grunge, but it was transitioned to what was popular going into pop music, like Backstreet and NSYNC and Britney, Christina, all those artists, and they're great, but the radio kind of shadowed bands like Bon Jovi and Aerosmith, bands that were still around, that were still making great music, but the radio would shadow them because it wasn't relevant to what was popular, unfortunately. And so, um, but before we get into the song, was there anything else that you wanted to say about the album as a
As you
whole?
mentioned, I've known since when it came out that actually it's more appreciated and more well
Yeah,
received here in Europe than actually it was in the United States.
yeah,
I know that definitely the 90s Bon Jovi as a whole was let's say much more appreciated here than it's in the
yeah,
US, where it's in the 80s. I think it was vice versa. Slippery and New Jersey were huge in the States. So, but I don't know. Maybe it takes some time for the music to come to here and
yeah,
people to appreciate. And they did actually a very solid tours, both for Keep the Faith and for
yeah,
these days. So
yeah.
this, of course, helps for the people to appreciate them more.
Yeah. 80s and 90s, even the early 2000s was so weird for radio here in America, because that's how people discovered their music was radio, or like you said earlier, discovered a music video on TV. But nowadays, the interesting part is, and I talk to a lot of younger Bon Jovi fans that are like teenagers or, young adults, and they've discovered Bon Jovi through, Spotify or Apple Music or, just the internet. And they will say that these days is their best work. And so that's incredible. It may have not been big here in America back then, but it's huge now to the diehards, I think, and the fans get into this fan base. Into
I
the
think from 10 fans randomly placed all over the world, if you ask 10 different Bon Jovi fans, I think 7 or 8 will pick
oh,
these days as their favorite album. This is at
abs-
least my impression because, like you, I'm listening to some podcast, reading comments in YouTube or Reddit or whatever, So I'm trying to understand, let's say, what are the people thinking? Like, are they similar to me in terms of taste? So I think these days is the top 3 album of every Bon Jovi fan.
Absolutely. So well, let's get into the song these days.
Yes.
This song was written by John and Richie. And this was I'm kind of surprised by this because this is the title track of the album. It was the fourth single. I think it was This Ain't a Love Song, Something for the
Something for the
Pain,
pain.
Lie to Me, These Days was the fourth, and then
Yes.
the fifth single and final single for the album was Hey God.
Yeah, I got, yeah.
So I'm surprised. So this album came out in June of 95. These Days single didn't come out until February of 96. So I'm kind of surprised that it wasn't at least maybe the second single. And to be honest with you, looking back, I don't know why This Ain't Love, and that's a beautiful, great song. I don't know why it was the first single. Like I would have chosen These Days or Something for the Pain to be the very first single.
Totally agree. And I have never knew what are the, let's say, the dynamics or the mechanics behind choosing a single. But I think it's the record label has some input in it,
Oh
definitely.
yeah.
They want to, let's say, know
Yeah,
they want to like have different impression for the band. I don't know, but yeah, it's strange that actually that they chose two of like the slowest songs, which are Designed a Love Song and Lie to Me as singles before these days, because these days as a song encapsulates as a whole the feeling of the album. So I
yeah,
think these days is the best how to say the best advertisement you can give you can have for the album. So
yeah,
it's
e-
strange, but you know.
exactly. As mentioned earlier, this song, it stands the test of time because you look at today's world and it's still relevant. For me, the whole song is about the dark world and kind of acknowledging it. It acknowledges homelessness, uh, people's innocence that become lost, the ugliness and horrors in the world. And I think it's also about um, uh, a look within yourself, trying to achieve your dreams and finding that self-confidence and trying to figure out who you are, even though the ugly world is in your face. And you want to achieve who you want to be and it's hard because the world just kind of presses you down. So it's definitely a socially conscious song. Um, but for me, that's what it's about.
Yes, there is this line which hit me very early on from the lyrics. No one wants to be themselves these days, you know. So it's like everybody, I think, can relate to this because there are a lot of times during your daily life that you don't are not confident with yourself, are not, let's say, happy with you, maybe. So this is like John put it very like he made you feel like he was one of you in
Yeah,
in some weird way if you can like
right.
relate to.
Yeah, and I think that line, nobody wants to be themselves but us these days. Nobody wants to be themselves. I think that's about, also nature versus nurture. You grow, it's kind of like the line in Hey God when he blew some cop away. His mother tried to raise him, but the world got in her way. Saying, you can only do how do I want to say this? You can only be so much that you want to be, but that the world kind of shapes who you become, unfortunately.
Yes,
Um,
this is the surrounding environment. It's not all
yeah,
you have the idea to be this, but the surrounding
yeah.
environment.
You want to achieve your dreams and you're working so hard to do it, but guess what gets in the way? The ugliness of the world.
Uh,
So that's
not
definitely
only it's not only up to you. Yes,
yep.
you have to take into account everything surrounding you.
Yeah. Another haunting line is, the whole Jimmy Shoes busted both his legs, trying to learn to fly from a second story window. He just jumped and closed his eyes. His mom said he was crazy. But the whole line right at the end of that whole verse is, I guess I'd rather die than fade away.
Yeah.
I mean, that line gives you chills, you know.
it it gives you totally and like speaking of course to you it's a native tongue but actually back in the day we almost learn English because of the Bon Jovi songs. Because okay, everybody is learning English in school, but you're learning like the basic things, like the general. Whereas here you're reading the lyrics and you know some of the words, but you don't know other ones, and you're like researching, looking at the dictionary. So more or less, like I have learned English because I wanted to understand the full lyrics. So yeah, it was very like serious read to have these lyrics.
Absolutely. And that's what's so cool about like I talk to so many international Bon Jovi fans, and they become my friends. And a lot of times I'll hear that they never originally spoke English, but they've learned English because of Bon Jovi music. And I think that's just incredible. So it
Absolutely.
shows you how powerful music is and stuff like that. Um, Musically, we got to talk about this song musically because it's just beautiful the way that it's built. At the beginning you have that, I don't know if haunting is the right word, but that haunting piano progression that David does,
Yes.
and then that bluesy guitar that starts to, and that's a really fun riff to play. But Richie comes with the bluesy guitar, and then John starts, singing the song. What's the opening line again? Um,
I was walking
I
around
was
just a
walking
face.
just a face in the crowd, trying to keep myself, yeah, and that kind of really shapes up the the socially conscious aspect of the song, what he's seeing on the streets and yeah, it's but I love the way that it builds up, when he starts, she came looking for some shelter. Tico starts with the drums there, and then it starts to build
roll up.
into
Yeah.
the chorus. Um, so what's your favorite part about this song musically?
In terms of musically, I like as you mentioned, the intro, like that is built like a little and step by step, and I like very much the tone and the sound of the guitar from Richie. Especially in the solo, I'm not a music geek, so I'm not understanding the music
Yeah,
like musically, so I cannot explain it like what effects he is using or what instrument, what type of guitar he's playing. But there is something specific in the guitar solo which I like very much, and at the end of the solo, which translates directly to the final chorus, it's I, it gives me chills to this day.
yeah,
It's like
yeah.
building and uh, uh,
Yeah, Rich is phenomenal in this. All the notes that he plays, and especially like the final chorus or the outro. Another great thing about this song is John on the harmonica, especially when he did it live. And that was a real treat to see live, was when John would come out with a harmonica at the end of the song. And I thought it just blended well with the way that Richie played guitar. And yeah, it was great.
yeah, and it's like a homage to his let's say his mentors in the
Hmm.
music scene. I know that the harmonica is very like close to the heart to Bruce Springsteen, which obviously we know very well how big of an influence it is to John. So yeah, it's definitely you see that they were they were themselves when they do this song when they did these songs. It's like the real like the mirror for John
Yeah,
and Richie, let's say via 95. So
yeah, absolutely. But overall, this song it's truly a gem. And unfortunately, it didn't get the praise that it should have gotten. But thankfully, the especially the diehards have kept the song alive.
yeah,
And
but with most of the bands, the songs which receive let's say the best praise are not the ones that are the actual gems. So it's like it's normal, and to be honest, this is why it's so good, because it's not like the it's my life or living on a prayer. Like
yeah,
it if it's like on this level, it becomes overused a little bit, and it's like you are a little bit tired of it. Whereas in this case, it's more like a personal, and only real fans recognize it and can relate to it.
yeah,
At least this take on this.
absolutely. Was there anything else that you wanted to mention before we conclude? I'm going to keep you on after the recording here, but was there anything else that you
Yes,
wanted to
yes. I
mention?
just want to speaking about these days. This is actually
Oh man.
a vintage page from a Bulgarian magazine back in the 90s. Actually, this is
Oh,
the from 95. The article from the magazine when these days came out. So it's like Bon Jovi's new album. So yeah, we read a lot. We actually bought the full magazine just to have like one page or one photo. So with a very close friend of mine, actually, big shout to Embata, a very close friend of mine, whom we are Bon Jovi fans for 32 years. So
wow.
we like have this collection. We kept it together, and we have
Wow.
this big box with posters, with pages up still to this day. So yeah, big shout out to him. So
Yeah.
yeah,
That's
he's
amazing, man. And that's the great thing about, this whole Bon Jovi is the friends that you make, and I tell you what, I got a lot of close friends um because of this band. The friends that you make and the connections, it's amazing. So
yeah, and
when you talk about, your close friend that you guys share a collection and this, that's awesome, it's great. So anyway, buddy, thank you so much for taking the time to come on today. I know that you signed up months and months ago, and it's taken us this, quite a bit of time to finally get you on. But I appreciate you taking the time to come on today. It's great chat. Can't wait to have you on in the future. And stay on. I'm gonna end the recording. But again, buddy, thank you, thank you, thank you.
thank you very much, Jerry. Really